I've been talking a lot of crap about the newer seasons of Winx Club, and though that is definitely fun and therapeutic, I also want to highlight parts of the franchise I really love, and so today we're going to talk about Season 3, the season most Winx fans consider to be the best. We're going to go over why I enjoy it so much and why it works so well. So without further ado, let the chaos begin. Open the Omega Portal. Why did I say it like that? When people talk about how well the first 3 seasons work together, it mostly has to do with the escalating stakes and maturing of the characters. But even in their primary functions, each season serves as a step further into the magical universe. Season 1 starts relatively simple, introducing you into this new world and getting to know the characters. Season 1's plot also stayed pretty simple. Bloom kept the main focus, trying to discover her origins and the nature of her powers, and in the end, using that self-discovery to nuke the shit out of Icy.
You think you can invade my school, mess with my friends, and get away with it? As if, witches!
Season 2 was more character-driven, with Darkar as a distant threat to give room to the Winx butting heads and having to get along. The other girls got a lot more fleshed out, especially thanks to Aisha's introduction, and it felt like we got to know the whole cast so much better than the first time around. Especially with that finale where literally everyone but Bloom gets to shine, God bless. Using the foundation Seasons 1 and 2 built, Season 3 took that shit and ran with it. It's by far the most plot-driven of the 3, throwing the girls into dangerous situations on a regular basis. It starts slow with the first episode, allowing them to enjoy the end of the year and hang out in Magic City like usual, only for that piece to be interrupted as the looming threat of Valtor in the distance sends literal shockwaves through the magical universe, reaching from Andros all the way to the shores of Magix. It's an omen for what's to come.
I wonder what caused it. A dimensional shockwave, and that means something terrible has happened to the heart of all oceans.
From the first episode, you can cleanly cut Season 3 into several mini arcs that flow into each other. First, there's the Princess Ball arc for the first 4 episodes, focused on Stella's party on Celeria, where she hopes her parents will get back together, only to have her hopes dashed as her stepfamily transforms her into a monster and turns her father and her world against her. What follows is the Winx doing what they do best, causing lots of collateral damage as they escape authority.
Knowing those girls, they'll get out of there without even a single scratch.
Escaping through underground caves filled with giant spiders and blood-sucking leeches, and then heading off to find a magical item to help their friend, guarded by horrific ice spirits and giant griffins. Yeah, you know the usual. While all that's happening, Aisha is busy on Andros helping her planet deal with the current crisis. Valtor is clearly the cause of all the problems both on Andros and Celeria, but the characters don't quite know that yet. Episode 4 wraps up the Princess Ball arc, then gives the girls some much-needed downtime as a new year starts at Alfea. We learn about the new transformation of the season and what it will require of the Winx, then finish off with hearing about the situation on Andros from Aisha, providing us with a nice segue into the Andros arc. Episode 5 sends the Winx to Aisha's homeworld to confront Valtor directly, learning that he's indeed their most dangerous foe yet, and confirming his alliance with the Trix. Not to mention that they're not nearly strong enough to handle Valtor. In their attempt to challenge him, Aisha winds up being blinded, both leaving us with an idea of Valtor's strength and cruelty, and giving us yet another segue into episode 6.
In the name of Valtor, may you be enwrapped by the eternal darkness.
6 wraps up the Andros arc, with Aisha getting her Enchantix, while also giving us a glimpse of what's been happening on Celeria since the Princess Ball fiasco. Episode 7 is another cool down and transition episode, having Aisha show off her new Enchantix powers to heal herself, and then having the Winx be forced to clean up the library by Griselda as punishment for leaving Alfea, resulting in Stella unleashing a horrific abomination of literature that they must vanquish.
Who dares disturb my rest?
Oops! I must have misread the title!
It feels distinctly like something that would happen in the first 2 seasons, which is the perfect way to remind you of the good old times in the midst of how tense this season has been so far. 7 also gives us a stronger idea of who Valtor is and what his connection is to Bloom, informing just how vicious their conflict is going to become.
Valtor really is a wicked creature. If he finds out who you are, he will certainly come after you to take his revenge.
Which leads us into the Dark Sky arc. Valtor wants to get Bloom out of the way, and does so by targeting someone precious to her, Sky. By finding an organic way to bring Diospro back into the story, the Winx are again thrust into jeopardy, having all of Heraklion turned against them, along with a dear friend threatening them with arrows and dragonfire.
Diospro used to be his girlfriend. Maybe all this time he was just pretending to be in love with me, but he was actually thinking about her.
I'm not kidding. I make fun of Bloom and Sky in the later seasons, but I really like them in the first few. And I teared up when Bloom asked, "Where have you gone, Sky?"
Where has all our love gone? Where have you gone, Sky?
Shut up, witch. I don't want to hear it. Just shut it.
Yeah, I was a mess. They're able to undo the spell in episode 9, but the situation prevents them from learning of their victory until episode 15. 17 in Bloom's case, more on that later. But it demonstrates that Valtor is willing to attack the Winx where they're vulnerable, and is cutthroat in wreaking havoc in their lives in addition to the chaos he's unleashing on the world at large. Next up is what I like to call the Faragonda arc. No, I could not think of another name for it. Though Season 3 has been far more tense and high stakes than usual, this is the point of no return. Oh fuck, a 4Kids pun. Valtor, looking for a new base, targets Cloud Tower, taking over the school, gaining control over all of the witches, and turning them into his personal army, and imprisoning Griffin. A setting we've been familiar with since day one, that it took having the dragon flame for the Tricks to conquer, has now just casually been turned into Valtor's base, and he's right in eyesight of the Winx's home at Althea, which is exactly his intention when he launches a full-scale invasion immediately after.
You've bewitched the girls from Cloud Tower!
I have always been known to be persuasive.
Though the fairies are able to fend Valtor off, it isn't without a cost. Faragonda goes missing after the clash with Valtor, making us fear that even the mentor that the girls have always looked up to, who's been able to handle world-ending threats like Lord Darkar before, can't best Valtor. Episode 11 follows the Winx on a mission to find their hidden mistress, leading them to teaming up with their old friend Murda to infiltrate Cloud Tower and discover exactly what Valtor has done to their witch allies. It also provides another encounter with him, showing that even though half of the Winx at this point have gained Enchantix, they still aren't quite ready to face him. Although that moment where Valtor explodes them and they all fall into the auditorium and the smoke clears and it's just the Magic Winx fairies, and then Valtor looks behind him and it's the Enchantix girls, like, up in the sky, like, bitch, you missed us.
Impressive.
Oh, we're just getting started.
I scream every time. Episode 12 wraps up the Faragonda arc with the Winx heading to Flora's homeworld of Linfea in search of a way to free her from her hibernation magic prison. Also want to clarify, fairy dust cannot break this because it's not dark magic, it's hibernation magic, and fairy dust can only break dark magic, so you know. I want to know more about hibernation magic. It seems really fucked up and cool. It's a great excuse to have us see one of the girls' homeworlds, and honestly one I wish was used to let us briefly see Melody and Zenith. In any case, it's a fun adventure to a new world, filled with interesting world building, dangerous winds, giant ladybugs, and a backwards flowing waterfall. It's a good time. What more can you ask for?
There must be a cave back there. I wonder why there's always a cave behind a waterfall. Who cares?
And then we have the most harrowing part of Season 3. The Omega arc. Episode 13 sends us back to Andros, revealing that Valtor has done far more damage to the world than we've realized. Which is saying something, considering he turned the sea lifeless and transformed nearly all of the world's mermaids into his zombie minions. Mer-zombies.
Take that, you zombie!
I'll take it from here. Die, zombie!
Good police work, Officer Nancy.
But the portal to the Omega dimension he broke through has become unstable, threatening to destroy both the Icy Hell world and Andros if it collapses, and if you listen to the other dubs, potentially the rest of the magical universe. Not that Valtor seems to care. To him, Andros is worthless now. He's taken all of their spells. and he's gotten to a point he believes he'll be strong enough to single-handedly subvert a galactic-scale calamity if and when it reaches his doorstep.
I always assumed that the mermaids wouldn't survive past stage 1.
What?
Hey, why so shocked?
In an effort to save Andros and the rest of the magical universe, Tecna sacrifices herself, sealing the portal only to be swept up in its current. With no real way to reach the Omega Dimension, Tecna is presumed dead for several episodes, and the girls and specialists are heartbroken.
Her eyes, there was so much hope in her eyes.
Yeah, and do you remember the times when she tried to be funny? I wish I'd laughed more.
Me too.
Tecna is usually considered to be the least popular of the Winx, and the one the writers tend to neglect the most. So to see her get center stage, and her absence profoundly affect the others, it is a reminder that she does matter, and that the Winx Club is incomplete without her.
It's just not the same without Tecna.
Maybe we should call it quits, like disband the club? I hate to say this, but I agree.
Me too.
It's the right thing to do, guys.
Everyone glare at fate, please. Episode 14 lets the girls lash out in anger for their fallen friend, attacking Valtor in a rage. They're still not ready, especially in such a turbulent state, but they were still able to give him a challenge and save Griffin in the process. From there, Bloom goes to Pyros in an effort to get stronger to compensate for her inability to earn Enchantix, while the others continue grieving for Tecna, with Timmy leading the effort to find and rescue her. Episode 15 is another slower episode, giving the characters time to breathe and process what's happened. Episode 16 sends the Winx into the depths of the Omega Dimension to find Tecna, only to find themselves in danger within the planet's icy abyss. Bloom, meanwhile, gets more in touch with her powers, and learns about the magical essence that all things possess.
Every magical place has a unique kind of essence, and not just every place, Bloom, but every magical being, too.
It's this discovery that allows her to connect more to her dragon flame, and also learn to sense Valtor's presence later on through that connection of the dragon flame.
That connection between my dragon fire and Valtor's power, I have this feeling that I could use it to sense where he is.
She also earns her Enchantix, ostensibly catching her up with the rest of the Winx, except with a catch that we won't discover for a couple more episodes. 17 wraps up the Omega arc as a reunited Bloom and Sky race to the Omega Dimension, finding Tecna in a scene which actually made me openly weep. Fun fact.
Tecna, you're alive!
I've never been so happy in my life.
They rescue the rest of the Winx and specialists, fuck up some ice snakes and douchebag convicts, and head home for one of their favorite pastimes, pajama parties.
Bring it on! I'm not afraid of you. I'm a Winx. Oh yeah? Then take that!
These episodes were by far the most trying of their journeys yet, and they still managed to survive and find a way to celebrate their victory in the end. Take some notes, Season 6. This is how you earn a party. Not exactly sure what to call the next batch of episodes since, unlike the arcs that came before, it isn't really an arc. It's more a set of episodes to let the girls relax a bit now that they're back together. A filler episode that we don't talk about, and a chance to wrap up Scylla's subplot before we enter the final act. For lack of a better name, I'll just call it the Agador arc, for the Agador box that Valtor steals, which will also be important in said final act. This arc also introduces us to Naboo. Ophir, Aisha's love interest who, unbeknownst to her, her parents tried engaging her to.
Layla, surely you can trust an honest face like mine.
Then in episode 21, we begin the Water Stars arc. It's here we enter the final stages of Season 3, with the Winx finding a way to stop Valtor that literally requires them to travel to the ends of the world, and prove that they are selfless enough to deserve such power.
And you care more about the world than you care about yourselves?
Well, duh. I mean, no offense, but doesn't everybody?
We'll see.
Still not sure why Flora and Aisha weren't put in the Crystal Labyrinth, and I do wish Bloom had a sacrificial choice presented to her in some way, but it was still strong enough to warrant them gaining the Water Stars. That, and the stars also present a threat to Bloom, since they oppose the Dragon Flame, which Bloom and Valtor both draw power from, and also makes up their essences.
You are ready to lose your powers, then.
Yes.
It's also here Valtor becomes his most desperate, on the run and becoming vicious and deceptive to finish off the Winx and Company of Light. And in the last 2 episodes, what I'm gonna call the Spell of the Elements arc, it hits a breaking point. Valtor snaps as the tricks mock him, revealing his true demonic form and going on a rampage in a last-ditch effort to annihilate everyone on Magix in one fell swoop.
Valtor is my name. There are no greater wizards in the whole magical universe.
It's not the same build-up we saw in the first 2 seasons, and of the 3, I still feel Season 3's finale is my least favorite. However, it does very much fit the kind of villain that Valtor is, especially in the final episode where the thread becomes personal as Valtor takes the specialists hostage. Valtor's end admittedly feels underwhelming, but I think it's one of those cases where the journey is more important than the destination. In any case, Season 3 is incredibly well structured and paced, notching up the stakes with each arc and allowing for a more tense, more dramatic story to test all of the skills the Winx have gained up until this point. Though Season 3 is largely plot-driven, the characters still get to shine, even the ones who aren't Bloom, funnily enough. Wow, a season that actually calls for Bloom being relatively more important than the others, and the other characters still get to shine? Interesting. Take notes, Season 5 onward. That being said, Bloom's desire to know about her origins does come to the forefront here, with Valtor possibly being the only person who knows the fate of her birth parents.
My parents might still be alive somewhere.
Bloom, I can't say. Nobody can.
Nobody except Valtor. He was the last one to see my parents. He knows the answer.
It adds a compelling dynamic to their conflict, where Bloom is torn between vanquishing Valtor and saving the universe, and potentially finding Ortel and Miriam. On top of that, her inferiority complex really stands out this season. She's always been a late bloomer, being without her magic Winx form until a bit into her first year at Althea, and arguably being the least versed in terms of magic outside of combat. This season takes it to another level, with the fact that she has no clear path of becoming a true fairy like her friends. Enchantix requires you to save someone from your homeworld, which for Bloom seems virtually impossible given the people of Domino all disappeared when it was attacked.
Rescue someone from my own world? But everyone on Domino has disappeared a long time ago.
This leaves her unable to achieve her Enchantix, and by extension, unable to be the full-fledged fairy she's always dreamt of being.
You shouldn't be ashamed of what you are. It's not your fault you can never become a true fairy. An Enchantix, Bloom, that's what they call real fairies like her.
And add to that what happens to Sky in the middle of the season. At this point, she and Sky are closer than ever. That scene where Mike and Vanessa comfort Bloom and Vanessa reminds Bloom of how Sky would have had to truly love her to save her from Darkar's control. It really drives home that back then, Bloom and Sky actually were a genuinely adorable couple of hotheads who would do anything for each other.
If he's the same Sky who saved you from Darkar's magic, then something very serious must have happened to explain why he changed so much.
So seeing that torn apart by Valtor in order to rob Bloom of one of her pillars of support, it really makes the season feel higher stakes. And also the fact that, they actually talk about it even after Sky's back.
When you were under that spell, did you really feel love for Diaspora?
Well, no. I'd say things that sounded like I did, but deep down inside, I was shocked by what I just said. As if my heart didn't agree with what my mouth was saying.
Oh my god! They're actually talking, God bless. Stella gets a lot of material to work with too. I do wish Luna was addressed in some way as to why she's absent while her daughter's life is in turmoil, but for what we do have, it's incredibly demanding of Stella, taking away her connection to her father, whom she adores, her beauty, and her title. With Cassandra and Chimera in charge, Stella loses her status as princess and heiress to the Solarian throne, which has been integral to her character since the very first episode.
Your daughter is the princess by right of birth. It is against our laws to deny her that title.
Nobody cares what you think, Chamberlain.
And for the monster transformation, it fleshes out Stella as a person who cares about her beauty because it's what she believes makes her so beloved.
I thought people just saw me as pretty.
There's a Winx iceberg video I saw a few days ago. I forget who made it, but I'm gonna find it after I record this and link it down below because it talks about this more in depth, and I feel like I had a deeper appreciation and understanding for why this arc hit Stella so much. And emotions. But having that thing, that tool to achieve validation taken away from her makes Stella realize that all of her friends and Brandon love her for who she is, for the crazy, high-energy, theatrical drama queen she is.
I see an awesome person who's never afraid to say what's on her mind. Who is cheerful, lighthearted, and fun. A kind of crazy fairy who always makes me laugh.
And I see a loyal, warm, and loving friend.
I will say, the Chimera Scepter thing, I think it would have been neat if maybe in the process of turning into a monster, Stella lost the Ring of Celeria, and Chimera wound up getting it and transformed it into a darker form, which would leave Stella a lot weaker than she normally is, which would, add salt to the wound of what's happening to her. It would explain why she isn't using it as much, especially when she gets Enchantix. It would better explain the needed reliance on Tecna's portal device, and think about what it would mean for Stella breaking the scepter as she faces Chimera during the wedding crisis.
For your information, a scepter is not what makes a princess.
She doesn't need it anymore because she can rely on herself and her own power. Aisha's world being in jeopardy likewise shows how important Andros is to her. As much as she hated the stuffy traditions and restrictions the royal life came with, something still present with her open dismay at the engagement her parents arranged for her, she would do anything for the well-being of her world's people, including the people of the Mermaid Kingdom far below.
Valtor is holding Queen Legia hostage? My eyes may not see, but that doesn't mean I can't help you, Tressa.
Even when Valtor blinds her, essentially trapping her in her fear of the dark and being alone, she still refuses to give up the fight to protect Andros. Seeing Aisha give her father hope as he is in complete despair, especially as the Omega portal is about to collapse, is incredibly heartwarming. As strained as her relationship with her parents presumably is, it is clear there is still a lot of love between them all.
You gave me the strength to believe and to keep hoping. I'm very proud of you, sweetheart.
No, Dad, I love you.
And also, I just find it especially touching because Aisha's name means life. So in a way, she's saying, do not give up on life. Do not give up on living. We can fight this, even if it seems the odds are against us. I love Aisha so much. She's such a badass bitch. I love her. As for her relationship with Naboo, yeah, it doesn't start out on the best foot with Naboo stalking her. That's yikes. That's a yikes for me, Chief.
I thought you were someone I knew. I'm really sorry. I didn't really mean to be spying.
Yeah, well, I don't like people lurking in the bushes, slinking around, and listening in on my private conversation.
He ran away from home to try and find the girl he'd been engaged to, according to him, in the hopes of seeing how terrible he was. She was.
I came here because I wanted to see who was that horrible person my parents had picked for me to marry.
And was she as horrible as you had imagined?
Worse. I fell in love with her.
Not gonna lie, now I'm imagining Naboo as like a bicon, and I'm kind of here for it. And we all know Aisha's a bipan queen. Sonic Wave. Sonic Wave! Anyway, but as Naboo and Aisha get to know each other, they actually find they get along very well. Given Naboo's late introduction, they don't get much time, but that conversation they have about the band they both enjoy is so precious.
It happens to be my favorite song.
Mine too. And especially the line that goes, "Nobody makes decisions for me but me."
Totally. Hey, hang on a second. Are you putting a charm spell on me or something?
I will say I have come across a lot more critiques of them as a couple, especially this blog, the Yin Yang couple, whose work I really enjoy. They're a huge Aisha Nex shipper, and I think in a world where the later seasons had better writing and Nex's character was more fleshed out, I could see the benefits of Aisha and Nex. I could. Especially this breakdown that they have of how the different relationships show different phases of Aisha's life as she grows up. Good shit, good shit. But now I'm like, ooh, but I like Aisha and Naboo. But now I'm also kind of liking Aisha and Nex. But I also like Roy Nex. Conflict. Oh, that's a problem for my future self. And perhaps most surprisingly, Tecna really gets to shine this season. She's an unexpected choice to close the Omega portal and winds up missing, but that's probably why it works so well. Up until this point, Tecna's never gotten to be that important to the plot like Bloom, Stella, or Aisha, which makes this incredibly refreshing. It reinforces that all of the Winx matter, and they're irreplaceable. each and every one of them. Oh my god, now I'm thinking of Farragonda's little speech when like those annoying parents are like, remove Bloom from the school because reasons. Well, they're like, you know, she's a threat because Valtor is going to come after her, but like Valtor is going to target Elphia anyway because he already has a grudge against Farragonda and also wants all their spells. So like he's coming no matter what. And Farragonda's like, we do not turn our backs on a friend in need, bitch.
You are brave and would not hesitate to defend your school or a friend in trouble. Should any one of you here ever find yourself in danger, we would all, without exception, be there for you.
And she just tells all of the parents to go fuck themselves. I love Farragonda so much. Anyhow, this all also confirms that Tecna and Timmy are indeed the OTP, or at least one of the true OTPs. One true pair. We're not gonna focus on that. Timmy truly believes he can find Tecna, and it's his undying belief that helps bring her home.
I found her! Tecna's alive! That's her voice!
Not to mention that both Tecna and Timmy have had to learn how to better express their feelings and be vulnerable. So Timmy's emotions serving as the key to locating Tecna, and the girls helping him out with that, like, what is it about Tecna you really love? Dig deep. It's so sweet. I'm gonna cry.
I love that she always beats me at video games and never apologizes for it. I love that she laughs at all my jokes, even though I know my jokes are never that funny.
Unfortunately, Flora and Musa don't get as much to work with this season. Beyond their moments of getting Enchantix, they don't have any subplots of their own. Granted, they only had 26 episodes to work with, and this season was already so tightly structured that perhaps there just wasn't enough room. But it still makes me sad for them, especially because Muse and Riven this season are... The miscommunication, the glorification of Riven fighting over Musa? No thank you. Thanks, I hate it. Valtor has long been considered the best villain of the franchise, and honestly, I agree. I used to say the Black Circle were my favorites, mostly for Ogron and Dumon, but I think part of that is my pattern of trying to root for the underdog. I'm always looking for something I feel is going underappreciated, which leads me to taking the fan favorite for granted. It's a similar reason as to why even though Season 3 is so praised in the fandom, it hasn't really been my favorite. Until now. Why did I say it like that? But rewatching Season 3, it made me realize that Valtor is more than some generic big bad. He's actually a lot like Nerissa from Witch as a master manipulator and aspiring tyrant. The ancestral witches were like, Valtor, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Valtor's like, a fucking dictator! And they're like, good boy, Valtor! I need fan content of that, of the ancestral witches just raising Valtor. Oh my god, imagine it's like a Golden Girls situation where it's like these elderly women and following their day-to-day lives, but then add in the bonus that they have a very angry, annoying son to deal with. I watch the shit out of that. Please, someone make that. Someone please make that.
You're a furry little gnome and we feed you too much.
Most of the villains in this franchise, unfortunately, tend to fall under the category of generic boring baddie who wants power because of reasons. I should clarify that there's more to that than might seem, since Valtor is also a power-hungry maniac. What I mean is that most of the villains who fall under that umbrella of boringness are, well, boring. Darkar, Ogron, Acheron, Kalshara, Selena, Season 8 Valtor, all of them have wishy-washy motivations with the personality of gravel. They're not truly interesting characters outside of their function of providing conflict, and let's be real, are you having a good time when they're on screen? Odds are you're not. Odds are you're either bored out of your fucking mind, or you're screaming, get off the stage! Well, I'm not screaming that with Ogron. Mostly I'm just enjoying his Cinnaloom voice.
Oops, how careless of me. I've wasted the gift of destiny to give back life to this small flower.
That's all he's got, though. I like how theatrical Darkar is, I guess. And as cringy as his 4-kid self is, he's terribly iconic.
Behold, fists of iron, eyes of fire, wit as sharp as a sword. Not to mention pretty, too.
Okay, this is a tangent, but I'm really appreciating the 4-Kids dub, y'all. Like, yes, it's cheesy as shit, and they did change some things here and there, but I feel like it's not as bad as we make it out to be, or as even I made it out to be originally. I don't know. Sometimes it's not about being faithful, it's about making good product. Anyway, so many tangents this video. Valtor, by comparison, works great as a foil for Bloom due to their connection through the Dragon Flame and his connection to her birth parents. Their rivalry actually proves incredibly compelling as the season goes on, with Valtor seeing her as a potential threat and an avenue to get revenge for his imprisonment in the Omega Dimension. And his vindictiveness in general shows the cruelty of his character, turning Sky against Bloom, blinding Aisha, turning Farragonda into a fucking tree. All these things show Valtor as someone who will go to extreme ends to make a point, or just to be a petty, spiteful bitch, which, you know, I stand that. There's also his expert manipulation skills when it comes to building alliances, and his charisma. Using Cassandra's desire to control Radius and secure the Solarian throne so he can steal the power of the world's second sun.
I simply want to bathe for a moment in the magic light that illuminates Solaria. With the power I offer you, you will be able to rule over King Radius, and you will become the new princess of the sun and the moon.
Using Diospro's jealousy against Bloom.
I can give you what you want. I can help you fulfill your dream and get rid of Bloom forever.
How often do you see the other villains taking advantage of these established conflicts? Not to mention, we actually see the fallout from Valtor's attacks on the magical universe. It's more than just a little havoc that we move on from. Andros spends the entire season reeling from Valtor's escape and subsequent attacks, having its seas ruined, its mermaid population turned into Valtor's personal monsters, and nearly being destroyed by the Omega Portal. Solaria is rained on for the first time in its history after Valtor steals the light of its second sun, showing that no world is safe from Valtor's wrath.
Everyone talks about sunny Solaria, but no one mentions this dark rain thing.
I want to know who did this to me and why Solaria is getting rained on for the first time ever.
He attacks world after world without mercy, leaving them in tatters and stealing their spells and precious artifacts, and putting them to use against the Winx. The spells he uses against Flora and Musa, for example, are spells from worlds he ransacked to counter their specific magic. And that also goes for the Appositist spell to freeze and nearly kill Bloom. No villain has felt as feared as Valtor since Season 3. Deservedly so, in Titania's case. Fuck the shrimp boy.
The gravest threat to the magic dimension since the ancestral witches. Tritanus.
Valtor is my name.
And it ramps up the stakes as he's on the loose, an active threat that no one can anticipate.
With all that's going on with Valtor, I couldn't find any transports.
Even when he leaves Cloud Tower and all the witches are freed, there's this sense of, wait, it's not over. Where the fuck did he go? Oh no, we don't know where he is. Oh god, oh god.
Are you sure it's safe? I mean, we'll be out in the open with Valtor still on the loose.
They were specially designed to keep us hidden from Valtor.
And Valtor's ferociousness and desperation towards the end of the season further shows his character.
A tyrant such as Valtor can become ferocious when he's cornered.
Accruing power is Valtor's one and only goal, and nothing else really matters to him. It's what he was created to do, quite literally. You could argue he doesn't even really have a soul.
When the great dragon created the universe, a small spark of its flame fell into the darkness. That's when the three ancient witches found it. They molded that flame into the shape of a man and called him Valtor.
He's just this entity created from ancient powers that has one goal and will do whatever it takes to achieve it.
You molded me from this fire, and like it or not, I will remain who I am now and forever. Nothing can ever make me go back.
There's no real humanity there, just a disguise of humanity. When his power is threatened, he becomes defensive, revealing the monster that he truly is. Valtor is the standard for villainy in the franchise for a reason, and it's because no villain has felt truly as personal or threatening to the Winx since. It's probably why Rainbow shoved him into Season 8, which only wound up tarnishing his reputation almost as badly as the Trix's, and also showing that Rainbow doesn't know why Winx worked in the first few seasons, but what else did we expect? The magical universe is a genius setting for the franchise. It's incredibly unique compared to other fantasy stories, with an entire dimension outside of Earth that is seemingly infinite and technologically advanced. It allows for a virtually endless number of unique worlds whenever you want to introduce them, really. And Season 3 is the first time you get to see it in all of its glory. Since Season 1's goal is to get you used to this world and easy win, it's mostly contained to the planet Magix, its futuristic capital city, along with the 3 schools, Alphea, Cloud Tower, and Red Fountain. It's incredibly easy to grasp the environment the characters are set in, and also establishes that these places are a sort of home base from which we will expand upon later. Season 2 fleshes them out a bit, with Red Fountain getting a new design that better fits the sci-fi vibe of the specialists, Cloud Tower being revealed as a living, breathing castle, which is fucking terrifying.
The Cloud Tower is not your typical building. It's a living creature with roots and branches.
Roots and branches?
It's a magical entity created by ancient witches.
Along with some new places on Magix, such as the Underrealm, the Kingdom of Downland, Pixie Village, Adquistus, and the magic-free Wildlands. It primes you for the adventure that's just about to begin. With Valtor as a power-hungry tyrant attacking each world, it serves as an excuse for all of the world hopping we see in Season 3. Andros is a world of oceans, with a few islands dotted about the world's surface, home to both land dwellers and a queendom of mermaids. Still bitter, Season 5 turned it into a patriarchal kingdom, but what else do you expect from the trash fire of the later seasons? Solaria is a beautiful kingdom of the sun before Valtor ruins it, and we get to see just how much its people adore Stella. And also how gossipy it is with all those cheeky news stations and tabloids. Like, damn, no wonder Stella's so fucking theatrical.
Tell me the latest news from Solaria. I need to know everything.
Well, the Baronet of Eos broke his engagement with young Countess Elendor, and then...
Like, is it me or does it seem like everyone on Solaria is dramatic as hell and like... Stella is a Leo, and it is my personal belief that everyone on Solaria is either at least a fire sign or they're all fucking Leos. They're all Leos. Love you, Leos. You're just a lot. Lynphea, the world of nature, is probably my favorite of the bunch, despite how brief its appearance is. The forest floor is left alone to nature, with the residents choosing to build their cities and villages up in the trees, assumedly so that they do not interfere with the natural world that they respect. Technology is forbidden in select places. Travel can prove difficult due to the powerful winds coming down from the towering mountains, which can be circumnavigated through the riding of the giant leaves or giant ladybugs, which are so cute! There's a sense of history even, with this once lush realm of Lulia becoming a wasteland following the Great Realm Fire. $10, the ancestral witches started that shit, fucking assholes. And the water stairway? Iconic. The story of the Black Willow losing its sister serves to humanize Lynphea and give it the sense of richness and history and character. It exists even when the Winx are not present. Not to mention, the story of the sister trees kind of parallels Flora and Melee loving and nearly losing each other. Oh my god! The Black Willow helped Flora save her sister because the Black Willow couldn't save its own sister! I will cry, I warn you. I will cry over this fucking tree. The Omega Dimension is presumably its own universe, separated from the magical universe, and far enough away to consider travel there dangerous in its own right. They could have done a better job establishing that, but you know. While many criminals are sent to Light Rock Monastery for rehabilitation, Omega is presumably for criminals considered irredeemable and far too dangerous to allow within the magical universe.
Only the baddest of the bad get sent here.
It serves as an eerie, terrifying place to match the escalating darkness and elevating stakes. And the roaming gangs of convicts following Valtor's escape, and the lore behind the significance of the realm's ice snakes, again makes this feel like a world which has always existed and will always exist, even when it is not connected to the Winx's stories.
The white snake is the very essence of this dimension. Its heart and main guardian. From its breath flows the ice which covers the entire planet. Without it, the Omega Dimension doesn't exist.
Bloom's respect of the ice snake following their connection, and her desire to take a piece of the Omega Dimension with her, sweeping some of its ice into her fairy dust bottle.
I'm gonna take some of this place with me.
It really makes me wish they elaborated more on this idea of each realm's magical essence. Again, kind of like Witch with the heart of each world. And no, me comparing the two is not saying one is a ripoff of the other. I wish people would shut the fuck up about it and just enjoy both. Magical girl coexistence in this house. Magical girls supporting magical girls. Unless you're a mega corporation like Disney suing the shit out of Rainbow for bullshit reasons. Yeah, in that case, fuck you. Fuck the mouse. Let me rephrase that. Anti-capitalist magical girl coexistence. There we go. I like that. I wonder how socialist the magical universe is. I'm getting off topic. But there is a level of spirituality here with Bloom's appreciation for the Omega Dimension, an idea of all things being inherently connected within the cosmos that I am utterly obsessed with. That idea of oneness and spirituality largely comes from Pyros, the Island of Dragons. It's an incredibly dangerous place to the point where the moment Bloom lands, she's attacked by an onslaught of wild dragons and unable to catch a goddamn breath. Seeing her learn to tap into her inner dragon through her friendship with Buddy, her literal inner dragon manifested externally, and her training with the Elder Maya, it again makes me wish we got a deeper exploration of connecting with oneself through these stories. And then we have some of the worlds we only see for a brief spell. There's Espero, a cloudless world I assume is based on Japanese culture. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. That's all about harmony and peace, and seems to be a lovely spot for tourists. Ohm, sometimes called Planet Chill, but I'm just gonna call it Ohm, is similar, a world where the people find inner peace through meditation. And even Valtor walks away learning how to find that inner peace and mindfulness for himself. After leaving it to burn to the ground, of course, like the shitbag he is. And of course, Oppositus, the world where opposites and polarities balance each other out and complement each other perfectly. A world which, honestly, seems could teach the residents of Earth quite a fucking bit. Funnily enough, while watching the 4Kids dub for another video I have planned all about the changes I actually appreciate from that version, I noticed something. Musa mentions hitting Stella with an Oppositus spell, or Oppositus, or whatever.
I suggest we all slap her with a good strong Oppositus spell.
To make her nice, since in that episode she had been spelled to act rude. The thing is, though, Oppositus was not introduced until Season 3, and the 4Kids dub was following pretty hot on the heels of the Italian version. So, did 4Kids invent Oppositus? Did the writers actually take a one-off joke from the 4Kids dub and transform it into an entire world? Because if so, holy shit, thank you both Season 3 writers and 4Kids dub, y'all did the Lord's work. Marrying the best of all versions for Definitive Edition. Call them the Whisperian crystals, please.
Energies of chaos, unite! Form the Whisperian Triangle!
But seriously, Musa got robbed. I wish we got to see even a glimpse of Melody, perhaps with Valtor taking its spells and leaving it in disarray, or in complete silence, just like Musa's nightmare from the first season. Oh, that would fuck me the fuck up.
Mom!
Where did all the music go?
I can't hear any music either.
Or Zenith? Like, Tekna is presumed dead and her parents just don't even fucking care. Sure, they might suck, especially in my rewrites, but you'd think that there would be a stronger reaction or even mention. Not to mention Valtor could probably take advantage of Zenith's magic to learn to hack into all of the techno magic throughout the worlds. There's also the case of the Tricks. At this point, we still don't know much about their pasts, and I think Season 3 could have been a great chance to explore them. At least mention the worlds they're all from, perhaps? Ah well. But all in all, Season 3's world building is great and sets the bar high for exploration of the magical universe going forward. Which every season from here fails at delivering upon, but again, what the fuck do you expect? What do I know? Thank you, Goofy from Kingdom Hearts.
What do I know?
Oh, I nearly forgot to mention the fucking Veil Mist Forest and Golden Kingdom. Can we talk about these places? I love the creepy atmosphere going into the Veil Mist Forest, like Timmy going, it's not showing up on the radar.
It's kind of scary because it's showing a great big void where the Veil Mist Forest should be. We're gonna end up flying right off the edge of the world if we keep going in that direction.
Like it's this weird place outside of space and time, and this dense fog that looks like it's to make it easier for the animators, but actually really adds to this unsettling, otherworldly vibe, especially with that yellow-brown haze. The fucking Cthulhu-looking monsters attacking them. And the Golden Kingdom is so fucking gorgeous. Oh my fucking god. Y'all know, like, I played around with the Golden Kingdom and the Water Stars and all that shit in the season 5 rewrite, but I wish we got more stuff like this in later seasons, because it's just, the magical universe is so ripe for all kinds of interesting ideas and places. And because of its very nature, you can literally just come up with whatever the fuck you want, and it will probably work. God bless. God bless. I have said it so many damn times, and I'll say it again. But Enchantix is beloved and the fan favorite transformation for a reason. In terms of design, powers, world building, music, and transformation sequence, it's by far and away the transformation which not only succeeds in each category, but excels in all of them.
Were you afraid to try out your wings? Well, they are still brand new.
Can you feel the awesome power they possess?
Power and style. Now that's what I call cool fairy fashion.
It's the representation of the Winx growing up, becoming better people, stronger guardians, and true, full-fledged fucking fairies. I want them to get licenses, like huntsman licenses, but relevant. And on the card it says full-fledged fucking fairy. We're not going to talk about the whole final fairy form thing because, well, it's just not, and honestly that concept has been made fun of to death, rightfully so.
This year, your goal is to achieve final transformation. Final transformation. Final transformation. Final transformation. Final transformation. Final transformation. Final transformation.
It's more that Enchantix is when a fairy becomes a true guardian fairy, able to protect her world and the magical universe the best she can, and by extension, able to access alternate sources of power. In an ideal world, other forms like Believix, Sirenix, Mythix, and so on would simply be alternatives to Enchantix. Not stronger, but necessary for specific missions. The idea of additional forms was introduced in Season 2 with the Winx gaining Charmix.
We are gathered here today to honor and congratulate 5 very special young ladies who have just completed their Charmix transformation.
It felt kinda last minute, but to me, it still makes sense given it came with them conquering fears and flaws that they had been struggling with that entire season. I just wish we learned about Charmix at the start of the season, maybe. And they're all like, wait, why haven't we gained our Charmix? We're doing all we can. We're like trying to fight the tricks. And then they don't get it until their Wildland trip. I think that would probably make it seem better instead of learning about Charmix when Bloom gets it and the child is like, oh, it's your Charmix!
It's a Charmix! It's something a fairy can earn when she manages to overcome her weaknesses.
But Charmix was merely a booster visualized by accessories added to Magic Winx. Enchantix, by stark contrast, is an entirely new form. If you want a breakdown of the fashion choices going on here, I highly recommend Lisa Feveral's video on the whole Winx franchise, which in general I recommend because holy shit, this deep dive is so satisfying to watch and relaxing to throw on in the background. But Enchantix requires you to prove that you are truly worthy to become a guardian fairy. You must save someone from your homeworld, and you must make a great sacrifice while doing so. Not only does it lend itself to a dramatic moment of each girl earning her Enchantix individually. Fuck you, Season 6. But it also means that no fairy worth her salt is going to gain Enchantix without proving that she's going to take her duties seriously.
The test will find you at a critical moment in time. You will need to rescue someone from your own world, and it will require a great sacrifice.
It seems a bit much to expect it as a must to complete your education at Alfea, since I assume most of the other students are just kind of chilling at the school and not going on life-threatening missions every 2 seconds. But it is definitely a good prerequisite to becoming a guardian fairy. Like maybe you graduate from Alfea and then later you get your Enchantix. Maybe, I don't know. And for the Winx specifically, the season spreads out them earning their Enchantix to give each one time to show off her new powers. Aisha is the first, sacrificing her chance at regaining her sight to save the life of the mermaid queen Ligeia.
I don't think the coral gem has enough power for 2 healing spells. But don't worry, Tressa. Your mother will live.
It is also through her Enchantix that we learn about the fairy dust's ability to break through dark spells.
The fairy dust can break through most dark spells. It's one of the new powers you have as an Enchantix.
Enchantix? That sounds cool.
Stella earns her Enchantix 2 episodes later, saving her father from a dragon after he'd been abandoned by Cassandra and Chimera. And she uses it in the following episode to free Sky from Valtor's spell. Musa gets hers in episode 10 by refusing to leave Princess Galatea behind as the Ophia library burns around them.
Leave me here. Run. No, never. What's happening?
A dark fire her fairy dust is able to extinguish. Flora gets her Enchantix in episode 12 by saving Miele from the poison river near the Black Willow, drowning in the process, only for her Enchantix to revive her and help her heal the river and the willow.
I love you, my little blossom.
Flora?
Bubble, bring her up!
Tecna is an interesting case, given she got hers by being willing to enter the Omega Portal to save Andros.
Fairy dust! Close the portal!
The thing is, Andros isn't her homeworld, which leads to a lot of confusion. And admittedly, they did not provide any reason for it to happen, which leads to viewers having to fill in the gaps for the writers, which is generally uncool. Glares at Ruby. I shouldn't need a fucking tweet to figure out what your plot is, okay? Viewers shouldn't have to jump through hoops to fix flaws in their stories. That being said, I tend to assume that the threat was so grave, it indirectly threatened the people of all the worlds, including Zenith. And that's why she got her Enchantix. Perhaps it could have even given Bloom hope of getting her Enchantix in a similar circumstance, but alas, that is just headcanon, and we don't give writers credit for headcanon. Bloom's Enchantix is likewise interesting, as she essentially forces herself to get Enchantix through her fury towards Valtor, which I tie to her desire to protect her loved ones from him, especially given she had already lost Sky, Tecna, and her birth parents to him.
I've had enough of Valtor. I believe I have the power in me. I'm gonna use it to stop Valtor. This is my island, witches!
Still, there are consequences to her workaround. Forcing herself into this form results in her Enchantix being incomplete.
Your Enchantix power is dangerously incomplete. The others have a power that was born out of sacrifice. Your Enchantix was created by pure force of will. It's not the same.
Her powers are unstable, meaning at times she's unable to transform. Again, something the 4Kids dub established during the Omega mission. Thank you, 4Kids.
Don't let me fall! I can't transform! Musa's fairy dust must have fixed whatever was keeping me from transforming.
And she's liable to transform back into civilian form if she overexerts herself. On top of that, she's unable to miniaturize, meaning she's unable to go on certain missions with the other Winx.
My Enchantix power wasn't earned the same way yours was. Miss Farragonda had warned me about possible limitations.
It's okay.
I'll have to sit this one out.
The first and most obvious example is her inability to enter the Golden Kingdom, but there's also her being left behind while the other Winx break the invisibility curtain around Cloud Tower from the inside, or when Bloom's inability to miniaturize made it more difficult and risky for them to all escape Lake Roccaluce as it was crumbling around them. The designs are gorgeous. All the Enchantix designs have large wings, fairy dust pendants, opera gloves, and barefoot sandals, leaving a lot of room for individualization of each outfit. Again, Lisa Feverall goes more in depth on breaking down the reasons these outfits and color palettes work so well, so go check out her video. Both Enchantix songs are great, but the one from the series is infinitely superior, especially in Italian. Love that full version with the added verse, mostly that line "come note di una sinfonia," which means like the notes of a symphony. Bitch, Lucia said we are a symphony. And now I'm just self-conscious because a lot of people are going to say my pronunciation is bad, and then I'm going to run through it over and over again, like, how is it bad? And then I'm going to be self-conscious, and then I'm going to cry in my car. The transformation sequences are likewise unique, but far slower than later transformations. Enchantix takes its time letting you bask in the glory that you're witnessing as the girls don their new outfits and wings. The spells, though, are kinda lacking, but I chalk that up mostly to the fact Enchantix did not have nearly as much time to show off his magic Winx. Most Enchantix spells are amplified magic Winx spells, and I would have liked to see more than that. I cover the spells more in detail in my video on the best spells that the Winx have, but I'ma just list some here. Pretty much every Flora spell, Luxuriant Ivy, Return to Nature, her Beanstalk Tower spell, and Cherry Blossom spell she uses on the Negatus monster.
Icicle Barrage! I've got this one! Winter's End!
Stella's Ocean of Light, her Rain Clouds, and that time she used an Anti-Sunshine spell to create what I liken to mini black holes.
Magic Rainbow!
Aisha's Morphic Surfboard, along with the river of Morphics that she surfs on, Techna's Techno-Magical Union, which deserved more, and Bloom's Dragon Energy to summon the spirit of the Great Dragon. And unfortunately, as usual, Yusa got fucking robbed. Seriously guys, just give her some more fucking diapason type spells. Let her summon some instruments. Let her use her flute more. Or hell, use the fact that music terminology relies on Italian words to your advantage and turn them into spells for her, Jesus. Winx Season 3 is a fan favorite for a reason. It's well structured and well paced, with a riveting story that requires the most of the Winx's energy up until that point. It's sad then in a way that the rest of the seasons just could not match up, but at least we'll always be able to watch the first 3 seasons and witness their conclusion with the season of Valtor and the season of Enchantix. I'm saying it ends there because honestly Secret of the Lost Kingdom is kind of it's not bad, but it's that's fine, I guess. Lord knows neither of the fucking English dubs are helping, Jesus. Anyhow, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this from me, then be sure to ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. You can also, if you're willing and able, pledge your support for myself and the channel over on Patreon, give a one-time donation via the thanks button down below, or check out my urban fantasy novel, Distant Erebus from the Ashes, wherever books are sold. I'm the Unicorn of War, and the Trix's taste in men is a goddamn shit show.